Okay, so when I first read this book, I said it was the worst book I had read thus far in my life. I was very sad that trees inevitably gave their lives for it to be printed. Unfortunately, since then, I have read far worse and been traumatized way further. But I just didn't like how it kind of flirted a little bit too much, in my opinion, with the line between dark romance and just crimes against women. Oddly enough, the more that I hate a book, the more the people that follow me are inclined to read it. Fortunately, I did say that you don't have to. Let's get into it. So these two main characters, Michael and Erica. Michael is like 3 or 4 years older than Erica, an age difference that is not inherently terrible, but during most of the timeline, Erica is in high school and Michael is finishing up college. All of it is technically legal. So they come from these two families that grew up in very close proximity to each other. They're both very affluent. Erica's dad passed away and left her a lot of money that is in a trust that is controlled by Michael's family. Michael is a professional basketball player standing at a mid-ass 6'4". There's 5 or 6 background characters that each get their own book in this series, but this first one is just about Michael and Erica. The setting is Thunder Bay, which is unfortunately not a water park, but just a town in the Northeast. So while Erica is finishing up high school, as she should be doing, Michael is finishing up college. But every single year, he and his gaggle of ne'er-do-well hooligan friends come home from college and they spend an entire night doing crimes and felonies and terrorizing the town. They call it Devil's Night. And they wear these like creepy, weird Halloween masks to do the things. All their dads are like lawyers and rich, so they can do whatever they want and have no consequences, or so they think. The afternoon before this particular Devil's Night, the gentlemen bust up in the local high school to lech on all the underage girls. They pop up in Erica's classroom and she's like, oh my God, yeah, I want to go with them. She's had her sights set on Michael for a while because he's that 6'4" tall drink of water. Her teacher says very accurately, hey, these girls are underage and you guys are kind of weird for coming up in here as grown as men to lech on them and take them with you on your weird night of felonies. But that's not going to deter Erica. No, no, no. So she sneaks out of class and she hides out in the floorboard of the Jeep that these boys are going to go take to do their felonies. And when they finally find her hiding there, they're like, yeah, I guess you can come along. Because guess what? That's why they were at the high school. They were at the high school to pick up some underage girls. So they were successful. She overhears them talking about how they all prefer like younger girls anyway because they're easier to manipulate, which is again, that's part of that flirting with crimes against women that I was talking about. So they take Erica and a few of the other victims some of the other girls from the high school, and they pull up on this abandoned church where they make this like Timu speakeasy moment, and they're providing alcohol to the underage girls and they're engaging in some premarital dancing and they're like shooting craps or whatever it is you do with underage girls in your weird Timu speakeasy. That's just the beginning of the night. They spend the rest of the evening committing crimes in the community and allegedly they have like a good reason for all the weird felonies that they commit. And what they're doing the whole time is they're videotaping all these crimes they commit on this flip phone. Someone does finally call the police on them, but they're able to get away. And they end the night at this abandoned warehouse where they make out and listen to Monster by Skillet, as one does. Finally, it's the moment that Erica's been waiting for, and she gets to make out with Michael, and she's really happy because she's had her sights set on him for a long time, and apparently he's had his sights on her for a long time too. He tells her that they have to keep their relationship kind of quiet and wait for a little bit because of the age difference between the two of them. She tells him, "Look, dude, I'm not gonna wait around for 2 years finishing up high school while you're off in college, twiddling my thumbs." To which he says, "You know what? You're not even that pretty anyway," and he stomps off like the big giant man baby he is. Erica now doesn't have a ride home, so two of his ne'er-do-well hooligan friends pull around and offer her a ride home, but instead of taking her home, they drive her to some another abandoned house in the woods. Apparently, Thunder Bay is just full of abandoned buildings. They drive her to an abandoned building and they just scare the crap out of her and they insinuate that they are going to her, but it doesn't happen. She has no reason to think that Michael didn't know about this. So she's just like really upset and heartbroken. And she's kind of like, I'm going to ditch that scrub. Good for you, girl. And the tussle and back and forth of all of this, there's a mix up and the little flip phone that they recorded all these felonies on goes missing. And they presume that Erica has it. That's important in just a second. After this traumatizing evening, we fast forward 2 years. And in that 2 years, Erica has begun dating Trevor, who is Michael's younger brother, who's had a crush on her this whole time too. Lots of crushing on each other. All of the gentlemen that were involved in this Devil's Night fiasco end up going to prison because somebody turned that flip phone into the police that had evidence of all the felonies. Somehow it had evidence of all of them committing felonies except for Erica and Michael, which is good for them because they get to live their lives, but not so good for her because it looks like she's the one that ratted them out to the police after Michael ran off and told her that she wasn't even that pretty. However, Michael is thriving. Again, he is that mid-ass 6'4" pro basketball player. Erica is in her freshman year of college, and the other of the hooligans get out of jail. And Michael and these friends hatch this outlandish plan to get revenge on Erica. And they start off by terrorizing her by lighting a candle in her room while she's gone, not at home. She comes back home. There's this candle that she didn't light burning in her room. Her mom is passed out from substances downstairs, so she's basically home alone. She looks outside and there's three masked men standing in her front yard. And there's a note that says, "Beware the fury of a patient man." She calls security. By the time they get there, the guys are gone and they're like, "Well, you're just a lady, so whatever." She's not like that worried about it because she's moving out tomorrow anyway to go back to school. So she moves out to go back to school and she moves into this apartment that just happens to be in this apartment building that Michael's family owns. And guess who else lives in that building? That's right, Michael does. They run into each other like all the time in around town and in the building, and Michael is always extremely rude to her. Mind you, they've hatched this revenge plan, and so some of those hooligans are like following her around campus, and they're crashing her classes and they're harassing her throughout. So she wants to call her mom, like talk about it, and her mom is supposedly on a yacht with Michael's parents. She must have left right when Erica did to go back to school. The only way to contact them is by satellite phone, but they didn't leave the phone number for the satellite phone for her to be able to contact her own mother. Rather than calling Michael up and asking him for that phone number to the satellite phone, she decides that the best way to get that phone number is going to be to break into his apartment. So she does that. She's almost no resistance. She's able to get into his apartment, and she did not bother to check and see if anyone was home before she broke in. So when she gets there, guess what? The gang's all there. They're all waiting for her. They do some more light harassment, and they tell her that they're not going to give her the phone number unless she goes to a pool party with them. And this is all very normal. So she agrees to go to the pool party. And while she's at the pool party, Michael gives in to his attraction to her that he cannot deny, and he, quote, eats more than his share of her, according to his friends who are watching. She gets the phone number, but she's not able to reach her mother. Very soon after this pool party, the boys go ahead and burn her house to the ground. And while that's happening, Michael takes a meeting with his dad. And with little to no convincing, his dad hands over control of her trust fund, NBA player by day and trust fund thief by night. And what he does with that trust fund is he disperses it amongst his hooligan friends who feel like that they have been wrong, because of course it's not their fault that they committed all these felonies and then documented it very well on this flip phone. Michael pretends like he has no idea that his friends are the ones that burned her house to the ground. He uses her grief to fool around with her. He does feel weird about it, so he kind of stops talking to her. She's by herself now with no one to really talk to, and all her credit cards are getting cut off and all of her bank accounts are being drained, and she doesn't know why. So she finally calls Michael's dad's investment firm and she's like, "What's going on with all my money?" And the secretary there is like, "Oh, you didn't know Michael has control of your money now." So now she knows it was Michael. So she does call him to try to confront him, and he says, "I'm not going to give you your money back unless you come alone to my parents' house that has just me and these hooligans in it," because there's a lot of back and forth and a whole altercation when she gets there. But it does finally come out that it wasn't her that turned that flip phone into the police, and she does tattle to Michael and say like, "Hey, also when that happened, your friends drove me to an abandoned house and threatened to me, and it scared the crap out of me, and that's why I didn't want to talk to you for the last 2 years." With almost no apologizing or explanation, she just decides to forgive them because Michael is just such a tall, handsome drink of water. And they start to date a little bit. And there's like this random scene where Michael and Erica are getting it on in this sauna, and then one of his friends is there just kind of like lonely in the corner, so they invite him to join in, and then a good time is had by all except for me as the reader. Basically the book ends with very dramatic scene where Trevor pops back up out of the woodwork and abducts Erica, and he takes her onto a boat in like the middle of the ocean, and he's going to make her pass away so that he can have control over her family's money. I guess he doesn't know that Michael already took it and gave it to all of his friends. But Michael comes in at the very last minute and is able to save her, and he actually his brother and throws him off the side of the boat into the ocean, and there is no investigation into that further. After all of this drama, Michael only just now tells Erica that he loves her. Finally, good for him, happy for them. And they get engaged while she is still only 19. He feels really bad, so he's going to help her and her mom rebuild their home. And it turns out that her mom was not on a cruise the whole time, but Michael had her involuntarily committed for her substance abuse issues. The very last few pages are of Michael telling us, the unfortunate readers, that he's actually wanted Erica since he was 16. She was 13. So some more of that flirtation with crimes against underage women. If you like to hear a plot summary instead of having to read a whole book, or before you decide if you want to read a whole book, then you should listen to my podcast called Read It and Screech, where I give you the cliffs notes and the cringiest quotes, and like and follow for more.